Have you ever found yourself stuck in a relationship, wondering whether to stay or walk away? Love isn't always simple, and sometimes the hardest decisions come from the heart. Today, we're diving into real stories from Reddit, stories about love, trust, and tough choices people face in their relationships. Welcome to Into the Spiderweb, where we unravel the most intriguing stories, advice, and discussions from across the internet. This is my first video, so if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps. Now, let's dive into our first post. So I'm going to start the post with something I thought was a bit funny. This story is titled, "My boyfriend got me Pokémon cards for Christmas, and I can't let it go. Do I call it quits or work it out?" For context, my boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. Since I've known him, he has always loved Pokemon. Personally, I have no interest, but as his partner, I encourage his hobbies and support him. This past Christmas, we had a few brief conversations about Christmas budgets and have mentioned to each other some things that we have been wanting. I knew Pokemon packs were on the top of his list, so I made sure to get him some. I mentioned wanting a few beauty products and a specific hoodie. Well, Christmas comes around, and to my surprise, I open my gifts. The first one was a pack of Pokemon cards. Okay, whatever. The next one was a booster box of Pokemon cards. I stop and ask him if he's joking, because this must be a joke, right? Well, he smirks and tells me to keep going. I open my next gift. It was another booster box of Pokemon cards. He was full of excitement while I open my gifts. That's it. Those are my 3 gifts. I am not and have never been interested in Pokemon. After this, I told him I needed a moment to myself. I went to our bedroom and took a moment to gather my thoughts and lower my temper. When I came back to the living room, there he was on the floor. Both booster packs and the pack of cards he got me were opened and sprawled across the floor. I was in shock. Not only did he get me gifts that I didn't want, but he actually got them for himself and tried to play it off. I have been trying to move past this as I did not want to seem ungrateful, but I just can't believe he would do something like this. Every time I tried to bring it up, he has told me how expensive those booster boxes were and how I made him feel bad for not appreciating my gifts. Am I being ungrateful, or is he just a jerk? So I think it's clear that this guy is a jerk, but let's see what some Redditors have to say. Do they agree with us? So the first comment says, "So you're telling me he's known and dated you for at least 3 years and has never paid attention long enough to get you gifts you may actually like. And you're questioning if you want to do this for the rest of your life or not?" with a bunch of question marks. In response to this, someone said, "He didn't even have to pay attention. She literally wrote him a list. Couldn't have been any easier to pretend he gives a poop about her." Someone responded to that saying, "Reclaim your cards, Pokemon cards, sell them, and use cash to buy your hoodie, and then break up with this clueless donkey." So moving on to another comment thread now. The first comment says, "That's literally insane, and the best possible explanation is that he's wildly emotionally unintelligent. So if that's what you like, I guess stay with him?" Edit. It just registered that this is a 30-year-old man. Sis, why? And I think we can all get behind that. Someone responded saying, "I really, really want to know what the possible good qualities this man might have, because I can't imagine he's a thoughtful, attentive partner in any other way if this is how he goes about gift giving." Someone responded to that saying, "He's not. She's just been able to ignore who he really is until now. People like to pretend their partner is simply perfect, except for this one tiny thing, and in this case, the thing is not being attentive to your partner. But you and I both know that's never true." Someone responded saying, this made me laugh, "I'm seriously picturing him in a giant footsie pajama onesie, playing with his Pokemon cards on the floor and throwing a tantrum like a toddler when his girlfriend tries to tell him something that he doesn't want to hear." So I think it's safe to say that this guy is a big old jerk. But Maybe I'm just seeing it from a very biased perspective because it seems pretty evident that this is wrong and you should never do this to your partner. If your partner asks for something, probably get them what they ask for. If not, get them a surprise you know they'll like. Definitely don't get them something that only you will like. So in expectation, his partner was expecting love like the meme shows, but in reality, he's just a big old man-child who wants his Pokemon cards. So that's it for the Pokemon story. If you guys have any thoughts, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Our next story is going to be a little bit more serious, and I'm going to get into it right now. So this next post is titled, "I found out my husband has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. What do I do? Please help." So the content of this post is going to start by saying, this is a throwaway account because I don't use or understand Reddit, but I really need advice from someone not connected to me or my husband. My husband, I'll call him Josh, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4, and we don't have kids. We have a really healthy and communicative relationship. We're both pretty easygoing, and I really love him. He started working at a large accounting firm about 3 years ago, and from what he tells me, he loves it there. He's made a lot of friends through his job, and he goes out with them for drinks and social events quite often, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm quite introverted, so I've never been interested in meeting his colleagues or his work friends, nor have I asked to. I've got my own circle of friends, and I'm fine with us having separate friend groups. After what happened yesterday, it only just occurred to me that he has never actually asked me if I'd like to meet any of them or go on one of his work events. I guess that's important context. Anyway, I'll start with what happened a few months ago that I had brushed off until now. I was at a bar with some friends for a couple of Friday after work drinks, and a guy approached me. He was there with some friends too. He looked slightly familiar, but I hadn't met him before. He seemed friendly enough and asked me, "Jen, right?" I think I must have just given him a confused look because he followed up with, "I'm Jake, I work with Josh." I realized that I recognized him from some photos on my husband's phone. I don't use social media except for a private Instagram, so I'm not sure if he posted the photos anywhere. But we've got a very trusting relationship, so I look in his photos sometimes. Don't hate me. This is where it gets a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit socially awkward, and so I struggled to end the conversation, but he just kept talking to me. I guess he was already a couple of beers deep. But while he was talking, he said something like, "It's great that you guys are still so close. I haven't talked to my brother in years." It's a very strange comment. So at the time, I was like, huh? But I just assumed he was drunk and not making sense, so I ignored it. He started to get a little flirty, so I turned to my friends and we left shortly after that. I didn't say anything to them about it, and it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I also decided not to tell my husband that I had met his coworker Jake, not to hide it, but because I figured the guy wouldn't even remember talking to me, and I didn't want to make it awkward for Josh at work by telling him his colleague tried to hit on me. I just thought, no harm, no foul. But yesterday morning, I was out walking our dog, Monty. He's a cross between a few breeds and has very unique markings. This matters, I promise. And was on my way to my regular cafe, which is in town. I was in line to order, and the guy in front of me was an older man. He got his coffee and turned around, but stopped and looked at my dog and goes, "Hello, Monty." Monty was super excited to see him, apparently, and so I guessed that the guy was another colleague of Josh's, because Josh brings the dog to the office a couple times a week. I thought it was sweet, to be honest, so I smiled at him and said hi. He introduced himself, I guessed correctly that he was a colleague, but then he said something like, "Aren't you a good sister?" walking his dog for him. I was so confused that I didn't even know how to react at first. So I stumbled on my words and just said, "It's my dog." I regret it, but I genuinely couldn't bring myself to correct him and say that I'm Josh's wife and not his sister. It was just too awkward. And I just wanted to leave because I think it was suddenly dawning on me what might have been going on. He asked me something about sharing a dog, but I was able to escape the conversation by being next in line to order my coffee, and he left. I seriously don't know what to do because what the frick? Do I even ask my husband about this? Part of me is just assuming or hoping that it's a mistake, that he doesn't talk much about me at work and they just assume we are related because we both have brown hair? ? But the thought that he has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister, and evidently they have seen what I look like, so they must have seen photos, makes my stomach churn. I don't even know how I would approach the subject with him. I need some help. What would you guys do in this situation? I have only told one friend what happened because it's so weird and embarrassing, and she jumped straight to time to blot his downfall because she's my ride or die. I love her. But I don't want to immediately assume the worst or ruin my marriage over something that could be nothing. I'm sorry for the long and rambly post, but I really appreciate any and all advice. So that's the end of the post. It is a bit strange that anyone that she's met from his work keeps referring to her as his sister. It's also really strange that he's never invited her to social events. I mean, that could be to her social anxiety, and he doesn't want to bring it up because he knows that she has social anxiety. But it is really strange because in my relationship, if I was going to events like that, I would invite my significant other because I want to spend time doing things with her and I would like her to meet people in my life. And I understand the social anxiety part, but to never invite your significant other to something like that, I feel like that's a bit strange. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's go see what some Redditors said in response to this story. So the first comment is pretty simple, and it makes a lot of sense to me. This is what I would do personally. Walk up to him and ask directly, why are you telling your colleagues that I'm your sister? Sorry, but this is nothing where you beat around the bush. And I agree 100%. Someone responded to that saying, yep, also, it's only awkward because you own some shame in this, OP, and you don't. Just to be frank, I'm his wife, not his sister. This is my dog. In response to the old man. It's not awkward to tell the truth. It will be for Josh because he's a lying jerk, but that's not yours to manage. This would not make me feel safe with my spouse. He set you up to be hit on by his coworkers that way. It's not okay at all. And someone added to that. And a lot of people seem to depend on people who love them being too embarrassed to rat them out. This next comment makes a lot of sense. Does he not wear his wedding ring to work? Why does he need to hide the fact that he's married? Sorry, OP, but this would send me into a tailspin. Find out as much as you can before confronting him. OP responded, this is where I am right now. Tailspinning, sad face. Reading these comments and starting to think I'm stupid because it seems so obvious from an outside perspective, but I know him so well, I'm just finding it so hard to fathom that he would even do something like this. Someone responded, there are a lot of stories here on Reddit that say they have such perfect relationships only to be blindsided and find out their significant other is cheating. Someone responded to that saying, I am one of those people. I thought I was in a happy relationship, but turns out my then BF of 10 years was having an affair, and I only found out because she told me after he dumped her. He was always vocal about how cheaters were slimes too. That is really unfortunate. But it sounds like that last guy especially was projecting on the poster of that. On a different comment thread, someone said, so he's either having an affair at work or keeping his options open. Neither are good. OP. I'm starting to think you're right, but I still can't even wrap my head around that being possible. He's just as present and loving as he always has been. Nothing has changed. Someone responded to OP. My husband was just as present with me and my 2 children, but somehow he had a side piece that even knew about me and the kids and didn't care. So it seems like even if relationships appear healthy and they appear like they're going perfectly, it might not always be that way behind the scenes, especially when one of the partners is hiding something from the other. And that seems to be like what's happening here. Like I said, it could be a multitude of things, but it seems the most likely is OP is hiding it for a reason that's not innocent. So the original poster did have an edit to her story after a bunch of people commented, and it addresses some of the things we mentioned, like about her social anxiety. So here's what she said. Holy frick. Thank you everyone who commented with some advice. I haven't read all of them, but I really appreciate the suggestions from you guys. A small update. Josh came home at about 2:30 a.m. last night, but he was drunk, so he just went straight to sleep, which is fine by me because frick having this conversation in that state. I've just woken up, but he's still sleeping. First thing I just want to clear up, I've seen a lot of people suggesting I have crippling social anxiety or am severely introverted, which I suppose you could glean from the way I explained what happened, but I'm not. I meant that I'm slightly introverted in that I'm not the most eager to meet lots of new people at once, especially a bunch of finance bros whose weekends consist of unending sports bars, beers, where I assume I would be mansplained everything until my ears bleed. Probably a negative assumption, but I'm sure some of you know what I mean. I suppose you could say that I'm confrontation averse in that I'm quite laid back and prefer to keep a conversation easy and positive. I don't know. I don't like it when things are awkward and correcting when people misrecognize me as one of those things, but I'm not terrified of confrontation. Also, my husband and I do share some mutual friends. I didn't explain that well, but our lives are not entirely separate. That is important context, I think. The way he acts towards me around our mutual friends is extremely affectionate and normal. It is only his work friends that I've never interacted with. I've also seen some people suggest that what is going on is equivalent to my husband beating me hopelessly, wondering whether I should break up with him, or that I'm stupid for thinking my relationship was healthy when it clearly isn't. Like, damn, cut me some slack. I'm a real person, and this is an entirely alien and bizarre situation for me. My first reaction wasn't to assume the worst, but I do appreciate that you have all made me certain that this is a big deal. I guess I needed confirmation that the things that happened are enough proof that Josh has been purposefully lying, and they weren't just mix-ups. I'm going to talk to him today and ask him directly why he's telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. I followed the advice of writing my points down so that they don't get lost if I get emotional, lol. I will do my best not to let him slither out of it, and I hope he has some proof that his colleagues know that I'm his wife. I know that's not the theatrical confrontation you guys were hoping for, but it's a Saturday, and I can't wait. Wish me luck, and thank you all. Unfortunately, there's no edits past the one I just read. Hopefully, OP has resolved this issue. We don't know the outcome of what happened. But let me know in the comments. What do you guys think happened here? Do you think OP broke up with him? Alright, hopefully this next post is a little bit more uplifting. This is going to be my first read through it, and some of the comments seem very wholesome. So this post is titled, My Stepmother Wrote a Letter to My 18-year-old Self When She Married My Father. How do I even begin to thank her? My mother is not my biological mother, but I will be referring to her as my mother in this post because that's what she is to me. My biological mother passed away giving birth to me, and I was raised solely by my father for the first 3 years of my life until he met my mother. I won't be talking much about my father in this post. My father is amazing in every way, but this is about my mom. They got married months after my 6th birthday, and they have had 4 more kids. My mother always treated me like her own and never let me feel like an outsider or like a half-sibling. I was always her son and big brother to all my siblings. Yesterday, I had my 18th birthday, and I spent the afternoon with my family and went to a party with my friends in the evening. When I got home, everyone was already asleep, and there was an envelope on my pillow. I opened it, and it was a letter that my mother had written addressed to my 18-year-old self the day before she married my father. 12 years ago, she wrote that letter telling me that she would never dishonor my biological mother's memory, but would try her best to be a mother figure to me. She promised to kiss my forehead every morning before I got on the school bus. She promised to always encourage my interests, and she would try her hardest to come to every practice and game of mine. She promised to never differentiate between me and any potential future siblings in any way, and many more beautiful promises. She ended it by saying, "You're an 18-year-old now, an adult, and are hopefully heading to college soon, and you no longer have any formal reason to maintain a relationship with me, but I truly hope that these last 12 years I was able to be a loving mother and fulfill all my promises to you. And I can only hope that you will continue to give me the privilege of being your mom because you will always be my son. I love you." And had a picture my father took of her and my 3-year-old self at the zoo. Like my father, I'm not a stoic, but in tune with my emotions kind of person. This letter had me crying, and I have not been able to stop reading it again and again, and it's currently 4 a.m. as I type this. My mother fulfilled every promise she made to me 12 years ago, and I genuinely can't imagine life without her. She opened her arms and heart to a boy who she had zero biological responsibility towards, and has been the most loving and supportive mother I could have possibly asked for. How do I even begin to thank her for everything she did for me? What's something big or small I could do to show how grateful I am for her? So the first comment says, "I'm not crying, you're crying. What a wonderful woman, and what a wonderful young man." You take that note to her, you hug her, and you tell her that you could have not asked for a better mom, and thank her for everything she has been to you these past 12 years. Someone followed up saying, "No, you're crying. I was cutting onions." Next person says, "It's great that you're chopping onions, but why are you doing it in my house? Sorry, thought you needed them for making soup." Another comment says, "You know what you do? You read her this post. Nothing would come close to being more meaningful. It's so refreshing to hear such a wonderful story." Someone responded, "This right here, OP. You think that's the end of a happy tears? Just wait till she reads the title of this post." Someone said, "Exactly. I was tearing up just reading it." The next comment says, "Show her this and tell her she made the internet cry with you." So I think that was a sweet story. In my own life, I have a stepfather who, in the very same way, came into my life when I was 2 years old, and he's treated me just like I was his ever since that day. He's also had a kid with my mom, and that's my younger sister now, and I love her dearly. But he would never differentiate between me or my sister, and he was probably one of the best father figures a man could have. Somebody who raised me to be good and care for other people's feelings and emotions and think about things outside of myself. So this story resonates with me a lot, and it's powerful. And now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start reading some of these comments. It's just going to be advice what they should do for their mother. Nothing too critical like the last stories we had. So believe it or not, there is an update to this post. OP said, "Holy poop. I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you for all the kind words about my mom. When I woke up, I read some of the comments and went straight to my mom and told her everything I wrote in the post. And I honestly couldn't keep it together and cried a little bit. It's always okay to cry. I told her that no matter what, she was my mom and I loved her. I told her how much I appreciated her for all her love and support and that I was proud to be her son. She also cried a lot, and she just told me that she loved me and she's very happy to have me around for a couple of extra months. In parentheses, I should be starting college in a few weeks, but I'm committed to a college for football and will be enrolling in January instead, and just have been taking community college classes and training right now. I'm planning to take her to the zoo and recreate the zoo photo, and I want to give her some kind of jewelry. I haven't figured out the jewelry part exactly, but I will eventually. For now, I just want to cherish these last couple of months before college and help my mom around the house wherever I can. Also, letters to our future selves is something I can get behind. Like a letter I write now and give to my mom before I get married, or something would be nice. And I do think that's a good idea, agreeing with OP. By the way, yes, She already legally adopted me on my 10th birthday, and I've been calling her mom/mama for as long as I can remember, for those who are asking. I find this next part funny. Also, a big F you to the people who privately messaged saying she didn't fulfill her promises, since there's no way she could have went to every single practice and game. I'm pretty sure she didn't know she was going to have 4 more kids and that I would end up playing 3 sports since middle school back then. Some people just can't be happy or let other people be happy, LMAO. And that's very true. If you're having a great moment and you're really enjoying the emotions you're feeling, there are people who will always try to bring you down, and you can't let them. You just got to enjoy the moment and let yourself be happy. So those were 3 interesting posts from the relationship advice subreddit. I really enjoy that subreddit. There are tons of stories that are even wackier, sadder, and stranger than what we covered today. In fact, one story was so strange, my girlfriend absolutely insisted I do not share. And honestly, I agree. It's definitely not suitable for work. But as this channel grows, I might dive into some of the more out there stories. In this video, we looked at boyfriends prioritizing Pokémon over their significant other, a husband who might be a little too comfortable telling people his wife is his sister, and we wrapped up with a wholesome story about a son and his adoptive mother. If you have any thoughts on these stories, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear your insights, jokes, and discussions. Since this is my first video, I had to learn a lot while making it. So if you have any feedback on my presentation, I'd really appreciate it. Is my voice clear? Does the text format make sense? Are the transitions smooth or too rushed? Overall, how can I improve? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit story discussions. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.